Welcome to the Beyond 22 podcast. We're your host. I'm Jason Garrett.
And I'm Mike Morales.
Please leave your comments on Spotify in the Q&A section down below, and like us and follow us on Apple Podcast and wherever we're available. Hey everybody, glad you could join us. Today's topic is agricultural healing. We'll be joined by Karen Archipley, the co-founder of Archi's Institute of Sustainable Agriculture, a sustainable agribusiness program near San Diego, California, that's partnered with the University of Minnesota, Crookston. It's a course I attended after retiring from the Army in 2016. But before we talk to Karen, Mike, you live pretty sustainable and grow your own food. How has that helped your transition and healing process?
As you know, I'm a city boy, so all of this growing food and stuff like that was new to me. But it actually helped me tremendously. Coming from Washington State down to Orlando, Florida, we got some property, and I'm choosing to use it wisely. You know, I'm growing my own vegetables, fruits. I have chickens, so we could get eggs. We don't eat meat anymore, so I'm vegetarian for that. But yeah, man, on a real, man, it's helped out so much because it actually gives me a purpose to wake up in the morning and go out there and feed my plants and feed my chickens and give them water and stuff like that. But it gives me purpose to wake up and do those things. The kids don't see their dad just laying around like he was after I got out the Army in 2017. You know what I'm saying? I was laying around not doing anything, but now they see their dad getting up. You know what I'm saying? Waking them up for school, and then they see daddy go outside and go feed the crops and stuff like that. And yeah, man, it gives me so much more purpose than and I know exactly what's going inside of our body, if that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying? I know what I'm giving my plants. I know what I'm feeding my chickens. So I know what I'm putting inside my body in the long run. So yeah. What about you, bro?
Well, you know, I do a little bit of gardening now. We got a little raised bed. Mostly we grow flowers around the house. You know, after I retired, though, I went to Archi's VSAT program, which is Veteran Sustainable Agriculture Training. Now it's called Archi's Institute for Sustainable Agriculture. After going to Archi's, I volunteered on a farm in Colorado for a few months, and that's where I began to write. And once I returned to Washington State, I grew my own food and cannabis. Now I live in Alabama and I can't grow cannabis anymore, but I do have that small garden that I grow for me and my wife. But that's about it, really.
Nice. How's having a garden and growing plants help you heal?
Well, for me, you know, it's given me some kind of a purpose, whether that's just to feed my family or if that's to make a living off of growing food. You know, how can you make a living off of doing something that's already, you know, you're benefiting yourself by growing your own food. All you got to do is grow a little more and sell it to other people, you know, as long as you know how to market it and get it out there, it's a lucrative business, you know, and you can have purpose. You can have a life outside of one where you're just work to pay bills.
Yeah.
You know, when you're farming, when you're growing something, you're getting yourself out of this chaotic lifestyle, and first you're in a different environment. Right. That's a big thing. Especially like if you're on like a real farm that's like rural area, right. You know, you get away from all the hubbub and all the commotion and everything. So you're really calming your mind down just by moving your location to a more calm area. And also growing your own food, you're building a bond with a plant that is connected directly to the earth.
Yeah.
And so you're building a connection, a bond with the earth, in essence, with the whole damn universe, because You're coordinating everything, the cycles of the world, the earth spinning around the sun, the day night cycles, the moon cycles.
That's right. You got to know all that stuff. Definitely.
Right. You're really putting yourself into accord with the natural cycles that are, it's like sitting on a beach.
Yeah.
You know, you're listening to the waves. So just think about all your problems just fucking washing away.
Washing away, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and
It
it's
is
been
relaxing, man.
used.
It is relaxing. It is
Yeah.
relaxing. I can tell you that firsthand, man. It's
Yeah.
relaxing going out there, digging a hole and putting some in the ground that you know you might eat in the future. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
just knowing that let me care for this the right way. And I think it's relaxing. It's like relaxing going fishing. You know what I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
saying?
Well, and a plant is a living animal. It's not some block of plastic. It's not an
Exactly.
inanimate object. It's a living biological organism that's growing, and you're using the natural Earth's ability to nourish this living creature. You have a transfer of energy between you and a plant. The way you project energy, it's the same with humans. You know, like I said in one of our past episodes, when I go out, I get my mind straight, you know, so that when I'm out, I'm projecting my energy in a way that it's a positive energy,
That's
and
right.
it's switching the energy around me. So a plant can change based on your energy. If you come
makes sense.
in, you're yelling, you look at these people with dead house plants, if they water them, it might be because they've just got a shitty fucking attitude.
That's true though.
And the fact they probably keep it in a place where it doesn't have any light. You know, you gotta have
Right.
light. And that's another thing. You know, I think of myself as a plant. You know, you got to think of yourself as a plant. Like when I said, right before I checked myself into 5 North, I was working down in the skiff where I didn't have any sunlight.
No
Yeah.
light, yeah.
Think about a plant. If you did that to a plant, it would die.
It would. And sunlight fucking gives out the best energy, bro. Like
It does. I feel
even living in like Washington State, you ain't even have to be in a skiff. Just Washington State throughout the winter.
right.
How it's rainy and gloomy all the time. That right there makes somebody depressed. But when it's sunny in the summer, like August time frame, bro, everybody's happy.
Yeah. Well, that would happen big time in Alaska. You know, they call it, I think it was seasonal affective disorder.
That's right.
And, you know, we used to have one of those
6
lights.
months, right?
Jeez. Yeah. I mean, it would be like almost, when I was a medic up in Alaska, I would go in the morning and do sick call. And by the time the sun rose during the winter solstice, you would see the sun. Well, you wouldn't even see the sun. It would just get light for about an hour around lunchtime, and then it would go back to like nighttime.
That's right.
And-
I mean, I went to Alaska with my wife for a marriage retreat, and it was in June, and it was sunny all the time.
yeah. And during the summer solstice, it's the exact opposite of that. So it is sunny all summer. I mean, I used to love that because I'd ride my 4-wheeler like we'd be riding till like 4 in the morning or something, you know. I did a video one time. We were driving somewhere in Alaska just on a trip, you know, and I stopped because you could see the sun. It came up and then went right back down.
Wow.
Within just a few minutes, it just did this little notch like that.
That's crazy.
I know.
Growing your own stuff is amazing. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
and living the right way, man. I mean, like I said, man, we feed our kids all the junk from the supermarkets that come from chemically planted and fed, should I say. You know what I'm saying? Because they give them all kind of chemicals. And they do it so they can grow faster, you know.
Right.
And it kills us.
That and you got the
That's
plants,
reality.
you got the genetically modified organisms that they
Exactly.
use, the GMOs, and a toxic mix of chemicals, not only chemicals in the fertilizer and the soil, but also think about this, man. You have in this world today, our cancer rates, our birth
Car
defects,
through the roof.
right? They've went skyrocketing, and I think there's a bunch of different factors that contribute to it. Of course, diet, that's one big factor. Another big factor is living unhealthy lifestyles, but also you have healthy people who have cancers and stuff like that. And think about the world as a closed loop. You know, the environment is a closed loop. Well, what the hell happens when you have Fukushima, you have Chernobyl, you have all these major disasters. You have World War One, we had people, they were using mustard gas, and all this stuff is in the environment, you know. It dissipates. Nuclear waste doesn't dissipate for thousands of years, but it gets caught in the jet stream, circles around the planet, and those microscopic particles are distributed all throughout.
That's true.
They contaminate soil, they contaminate drinking water, they contaminate all the crops, the plants, everything, and humans in general. So
That's true.
we live in a toxic environment. And,
Already.
right. So the more toxicity you add to your body, the worse off you're going to be. And that's why I get into this saying, you know, we need to get away from prescribe, just one drug after the other. Some people need it if you've got certain diseases that require those medications in order to deal with them. Like, you're not going to fix kidney disease by smoking weed, you know. I mean, it might help you comfort wise.
Might help you feel better, but
and it'll help you deal with your issues better, because that's a major life challenge. But instead of using natural substances like cannabis and stuff like that, and growing your own medicine or growing your own food and having a connection to that, like we've talked about it before, man, you grow your own shit. You are responsible for that plant, and you grow a relationship with that. And it's a relationship of love, because it's reciprocated on the other end when you're ingested into your body. Before I harvested my plants, I explained to them, you are the sacrifice. You are the communion. When I take you into my body, you become me and I become you. So you live through me, even though you die. So it's just like Christ is supposed to live through you by taking him into your body. And that's what the whole purpose of the sacrifice is and all that. To me, it's a ritual. To me, the whole process is sacred. And it is religious to me. And, you know, when my mom died, I took her ashes, and that's what I put in my plants. When I put them in the ground, I put her ashes, a little piece, like a little palm full of her ashes, I'll sprinkle in there, because ash is good to add in with the soil.
Right.
And it helps with the pH and stuff like that. But also, the plant is taking her essence, and she grows and comes to life through that plant. So
that's pretty dope.
So I didn't grow cannabis. I grew my mother. And it's, you know, you have that bond with the plant that's just sacred. It really is. It becomes
deep. Yeah, man.
Well, you're ruining people's lives by making shit like that illegal, because people can use it, especially veterans coming out of war, where they need to separate their mind from the chaos.
Right.
And they need something that brings them out of it so that they can look at it from an outside perspective. Because see, that's what cannabis does that nothing else does. Now, a lot of the other psychedelic medicines do that. All these have benefits that are just now being realized.
That's true, though.
And why are we realizing them now? Because we've got 20 years in Afghanistan. You know, we've been fighting wars for 20 years.
That's crazy, man, when you think about it.
What? Yeah. What the hell's the side effect of war? You got PTSD. Well, it doesn't just affect soldiers. It doesn't just affect that service member who goes off to war. They bring it back. It's like you're around your kids. That trickles down into them. It trickles down into society. I don't know, Mike. I just got way the fuck off track, man.
No, man, we in it, man. You already know. Everybody who's been listening, y'all already know how it is, man. We get into it. So.
Yeah.
Now let's introduce our guest, Karen Archipley of Archi's Institute of Sustainable Agriculture. Karen, we're glad you could join us today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Welcome to the show, Karen. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about Archi's Institute for Sustainable Agriculture and how you and your husband, Colin, began?
Sure. So for those that don't know the story, Colin served in the Marine Corps 4 years, but in that 4 years, he was part of the invasion, Battle of Fallujah, and then his third tour was Haditha, just as that heated up.
Oh, wow.
And in between so in between the second and third tour, we bought a farm right behind Camp Pendleton. It's off the 15, 20 minutes from Camp Pendleton, so he could get to work. And previously we had lived in Los Angeles. And so our friends thought we were crazy. What did we know about farming? And that was nothing. But we knew that we wanted to live in the country. And Colin wanted to stay in California. I wanted to move to Italy. We found Italy in California. And so we live in a slice of Italy in California. How we began, go ahead.
Oh, now that you said the Italy thing, I remember it did look similar to the countryside of Italy with the rolling hills, and it's beautiful out there. I love that drive, by the way.
Only thing missing is castles.
Yeah.
Castles. Anyway, so how we began, though, is that Colin returned. So let me just back up, because while Colin had arrived in Iraq and we bought the farm, and I moved on October 17th, and the first thing, I had the long arm of Colin from Iraq telling me what to do, get this farm ready. And my first thing was to turn the water on to the avocados.
Oh,
and
wow.
we were told that our water would be like $50 a month. And you can laugh at that because it's impossible. But we had lived in LA where water was $40 every other month. And so for us, we were like, oh, well, that's double what we're paying, but we could probably be okay. Okay, our first water bill was $850.
Wow. Surprise.
Yeah, and they tell you as a spouse of an infantryman, don't tell him anything that'll upset him, because what can you do about it in Iraq? So I didn't tell him. But he saw it online.
Oh, he saw it.
And when he saw it online, it was an immediate call, and I think it was midnight here. And he's like, did you pay the water bill for the next 2 years? What happened? Because it's, Valley Center water, right?
Yeah.
And I said, no. I wasn't going to lie to him. I said, no, that was our first water bill. And from that moment on, I would say that's the moment we became a sustainable farm.
Wow.
Because from that moment on, I started getting books in the mail, Amazon. It was all for his packages going to Iraq, right? His care packages. How to keep your small farm profitable, how to manage water on a small farm. It was all of that. And so I'm sending this to Iraq, and we're trying to kind of balance out how are we going to do this? Because that was like the 850, we couldn't do that a month.
Yeah.
That's the price of, that's 2 Teslas or something.
I know, right?
That's a car payment for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, that is when Colin came back in April. And he came back, and the very first thing he did was built our 30 by 60-foot greenhouse. And it cost us around $70,000.
Oh, wow.
At that time, everything was expensive. We went hydroponic because he was living in Iraq, right? And as he's researching this, water being the new oil, when you grow hydroponically, it's up to 90% less water, which is crazy. And for us, because we eat organic, we live organic, we breathe organic, we grow organic.
Yeah.
So it
That's
was
amazing.
hydro organic. And the amazing thing for us is that we didn't know that there was any problem with being hydro organic. And we went through our inspection and came through just fine. We followed the National Organic Program. And it turns out that we were the first farm to use the NFT system, which is nutrient film technique, which is where the little film of water runs underneath the plant. And so basically the only water you lose is what that plant actually uses.
That is crazy.
And-
That's amazing.
And it just recirculates. It's just the
It's
evaporation's the only thing you
recirculating
lose.
system. Correct. And so suddenly we had this 30 by 60-foot greenhouse that was matching the income of Colin as an E5 in the Marine Corps.
Oh, time to
Wow.
get out now.
Well, and so from April to October with his EAS, and he worked on the farm. He really embraced it full on. We had thought we would go into real estate together. I was doing mortgage loans. I was queen of the 30-year fixed. So everybody thought I rode a horse to work. I was so out of touch. And then the market crashed, right? I mean, and my clients were
right.
okay for the most part. But I will say that, there was no way that Colin was going to go into real estate. At that time, most civilians didn't even know there was a war on. And so that was really difficult for Colin to digest, that, here he was losing people that he knew and loved, every day. And civilians had no clue that there was even something going on. And so to drive around people looking for a house and to only have their cousin write it up when he found it for him, right? Because that's what
Right.
was going on at that time. It was not a match.
Yeah.
So Colin embraced the farm. And I'm going to tell you, it's a beautiful life. And so come October, when he EAS'd, so many of the people he served with were like, come on, Archie, one more tour. And I was like, yeah, no
way.
that doesn't sound good to me. And so we came up with a plan together that he could stay connected to the men and women he served with. And we created the Veterans Sustainable Agriculture Training Program. And that's called VSAT.
That's what I went to.
And yes.
Yeah, that's what I went to back in
And so-
2016. So, yep.
Yeah, and we were really proud of that. It was VSAT for a very long time, and we got a cease and desist from the VA saying that we couldn't say veterans.
Oh, really?
And we had civilians in
Wow.
every class, as you know. But that's when we
Wow.
changed it to Archi's Institute for Sustainable Agriculture. And that way we were able to keep the continuity and the connection of Archi's. And Archi's Acres is our farm, and Archi's Institute is our school. And today we're partnered with the University of Minnesota Crookston, and we're really proud of that. It's a land-grant university, and we're on the main campus.
Oh, wow.
And that to us is a real pleasure. It's such a nice thing to have our students be able to utilize all those services and to be able to continue on because they're now able to matriculate.
So you guys
That's
have
amazing.
I'm sorry. So you guys have a satellite at the university itself in Michigan? Is that correct?
Yes, we are part of their program, and it's all
wow.
online. Now, at
Wow.
the time we started, everything was at our farm. Here, let me try to get back.
Right. That's when I went. Yeah. It was
Yes,
like that when I
everything was
went. I
at the
love.
farm.
But now
And it
you
was
still
butts
have the
and seats.
option.
Now, what you can do is that you take our class. It is online, 100%. But we've had people take it from Germany,
Wow.
Florida, Alaska,
Yeah.
anywhere
That
in
is
the
so
world.
great.
Anywhere. Yeah.
Yes, and they can actually become part of our program and part of our school. And
Oh,
then
wow.
for anyone that's local or when you come back, because as you know, our relationship begins on the day you graduate, because that's when you need us,
Yeah.
Okay.
right? That's when the rubber hits the road. And we have a tremendous program of people that are willing to answer questions and show up when asked. And if there's somebody that needs help with something, we've got a tremendous team behind us, which is amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. You guys had some really good, I really enjoyed the individuals you guys had working on the farm.
We started with the local, community college, and then we moved to the state college. And then we were with Cal Poly for a while, 6 years. And now we're
Yeah.
with the University of Minnesota. So it's been quite a journey to get here. And we've had so many amazing things in between. We've been
That's so
honored
amazing.
by the White House as champions for
What?
change for veteran entrepreneurship. That was exciting.
Oh, wow.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were on Brian Williams, People Making a Difference. And I love that. And it's not because of just Colin and I, because it's not us. It's that we are a family. And anywhere we are, we consider all 470 of our students that have come through are with us. And
Wow.
so we raise our voices. That's how we help to create Skill Bridge, which is when an active duty Marine can take our class 18 months before they separate.
Nice.
18 months. Wow.
So they can take it 18 months out. That was from meeting Frank DiGiovanni at the White House.
Oh,
And we
wow.
were able to state our case that at that time, a veteran could not use their VA home loan to buy a farm. And we didn't think that
Wow.
was right. And so we took it to the White House, said, And it turns out that not only, and that was Doug McCaleb, and I've got to give him kudos. He's an amazing guy. He still works in the administration at the USDA. He's been there for years, but he was the rule advisor to President Obama. And
Oh, wow.
And he said, prove it. And it took like 15 minutes to prove it. I just called 3 banks throughout the country and was turned down. And the last one said, well, the reason we don't do that is because we can't sell those loans quickly on the secondary market.
Ah.
And so I said, would you
Wow.
put that in writing? And he said, absolutely not. And I said, can I have my friend call you? And he said, no problem. And do you know, I'm going to tell you today, so we got a call the day after Thanksgiving, that not only is it legal to use your VA home loan, but if you're turned down for a VA home loan by a bank, you can just let me know or let the White House know that that's going on. And that bank runs the risk of not being able to offer any VA home loans, because if you don't offer them all, you can't offer
That is
any.
so crazy. That's
Wow.
So we had 2 wins
Wow.
at that meeting at the White House. And it was Skill Bridge, where you can take our class 18 months before you separate, or any other class that interests you, and be able to do that before you're out on the street wondering what you're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's a
that
big
was
deal.
through Frank DiGiovanni, and then Doug McCaleb is for the VA home loans. And we are really proud of that. And again, it's just about raising your voice. And that's what you're doing with this podcast. And I love that, because we
Thanks.
have to raise our voice, right? You got to
Yeah.
raise your voice to say, this is possible. Don't give up.
That's
Well,
right.
that's amazing, because when I graduated Archie's, I remember that was the big hang up for me, was how am I going to buy the land or the farm itself? I can use the loans that the USDA has to run it, but either I've got to stumble across someone that's already got one, or I've got to already have one, or lease it out, which would cut into all of the money that I'm
VA loan,
borrowing.
yep. Mhm.
That's really amazing. I didn't know that. I'm glad you guys
Me
did
either.
that. That's
That's amazing.
that's impressive.
And we are partnered with the Farm Service Agency, where now you can do their microloan up to $75,000, and you're
wow.
allowed to either use that for income or to put down on a property.
Wow.
Oh,
And then after a year, you can roll it into an operator loan because now you own that property.
Wow. Is
So
that
that's
still,
so great.
does that apply to alumni, or is that something
yes,
that you
of
have
course.
to
It's a
really?
farm service agency. It's throughout the country.
Wow.
And you can go to your local office. Not all of them recognize the VSAT program or ASA. Just let me know, and I'll make a few phone calls, and then they will.
Wow.
So we had a wonderful director for years, and that was Val Dosini, and he was just aces across the board. And he made sure everyone was aware of this program because this, your certificate is equivalent to 1 year farm ownership. And so to
Wow.
us, that's a big point of pride. And they really scanned our program to make sure it was enough to be that. And it, in fact, is. And so many of our students have taken these loans out and have done really, really well. And the microloan, I know you have to pay that back within a year. But at the
Yeah.
end of that year, you can roll that into an operator loan because now you're going. And so, and the farm
Okay,
service
that's good to
agency, you
know.
just can't beat their rate.
Wow.
Yeah, I
That's
think it was
amazing. Yeah.
like 2.67% fixed or something. It's crazy. Really, it's not like, adjustable. It's great.
Yeah. And
That's
it's
amazing.
long, it's a long loan, isn't it? It's not like the one
Yeah,
that you
20
have to
years.
pay back
The micro is 1 year, but the
right.
operator loan is like 20.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a big start, and
And then,
especially if you could get the course knocked out prior to getting out of the military, so you set
right.
yourself and then you stack everything up so that once you get out, you've already laid the foundation for you to, wow,
Mhm.
that's a big,
And the
yeah,
amazing thing, if you're local, and actually, even if you're not, if you have other farms, but you can take the class and then actually go into on-the-job training here. And I think they
Nice.
allow 3 to 6 months. So it's crazy, which is great because then you see, touch, and feel every part of the farm. And I know with Colin, he makes sure that they get into the accounting. He makes sure that they get into deliveries. They get into the ordering, making sure because then you try it on for size before you invest. It's really
yeah,
Yeah.
important.
yeah. I know there's a lot of little pieces that you have to put together to set up a farm, and you guys do a really good job, I think, of preparing people for that and giving them the ins and outs of how to go about doing all that.
And we're not going to become a millionaire overnight, although I'm going to tell you, some of our students are near retirement through their projects, and I'm really amazed at that. And they're like in their
Wow.
That's so
40s,
great.
which is exciting. But it is about, learning that the only consistent thing in a business plan is change. Because as your information changes, so will your business plan. But being
Mm.
able to navigate the road is the most important thing, no matter what you do with it. And agriculture touches every part of our life.
That's
It's the
true.
clothes we wear, it's the table that we sit at, it's our food that we eat, but it's also the grocery store that delivers it, the trucker that took it to the grocery store. I mean, all of that is ag. So there's very little parts of our life that agriculture doesn't touch. And so we really try to open the mind to say, no matter what you do, if you decide to, consult with people or to build backyard gardens or to build a hydroponic system or to truck tomatoes, all of that is incredibly valuable. But it's understanding, can you make a living? Can you take at least 1 day off a week and do something fun? Right?
That
Because
need to
it's
be
not
nice.
Yeah,
just work. You got to have a quality of life.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
look, I want to go to the
Nice.
course. Yeah. What do you think veterans can gain from attending the course like Archie?
Well, for us, we really believe that it's taking the training that you learned in the military and it's just redirecting that into agriculture. And so,
Mm.
we invest over $1 million in every person that serves, every person. And
Mm.
when they get out, it's like, where does that go? Right. And so for us, we say, okay, you got it down. Now let's just redirect that into business, into agriculture, into whatever really gets you excited about life. And so veterans that do take this course, and we've had people that were homeless and that are now leading programs in Oregon,
Wow.
for
Wow.
other homeless vets, getting them into ag, right?
Wow.
Getting them into
That is
community
amazing.
gardens. And that person that took our class, I mean, it gives me chills, he stayed at Interfaith, for their homeless people. He stayed there during the class and was able
Wow.
to get rides back and forth with other classmates and, but he did whatever he needed to do to get through. And he has that muscle today. And he has created a life for himself, and now he's married and has kids. And it's like he just was able
Amazing.
to pull himself together and say, you know what, I already had those tools, but now I can use them.
That's great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I know that Archie's helped me a lot, and in a lot of ways that isn't even related to farming.
Love it. Well,
But-
and the great thing is, whatever your timing is, right? I mean, for us, it's really been about the long haul. Like we started this in 2007 for having veterans come on the farm. And since then, we try to stay in touch with our veterans and our alumni, I should say, because it's not all veterans. We have a lot of civilians as well, but we stay in touch because 5 years down the road, 7 years down the road, now you've found a property. So now you can retool up. You can always take our class again, and that is not at cost. It's because you're part of the family and you can say, hey, I want to take that, money part again or whatever. And you work
Wow.
with Tony Latner as our director of education.
I remember Tony.
And he'll
Yeah.
arrange
Yeah.
for you to get through that segment of the class. Or if you want to sit through the whole thing, God bless you, because I know it's really a tough class. But you can do that. And the meaning of that is that it doesn't matter when you use it, but the fact that you're using it is wonderful.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't mind I wouldn't mind coming out and visiting the farm sometime. That's an amazing place. I used to love just the drive out there. Well, until you hit the interstate, and then it's just a standstill on the interstate. But that windy little back road going out to the farm, that's just beautiful. It's a beautiful drive.
Yes, it is.
I
We
gotta
live in a
visit. I
slice of
gotta
heaven.
visit.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
please do. Please do.
I say, it also sounds like you guys teach more than just how to grow plants. Y'all teach how to live better, how to grow business plans and stuff like that. It's amazing.
It's 50% business and 50% propagation, I would say. And it's actually probably 51% business and then 49 propagation. Because let me just say, you can grow food, but you have to make sure it's sold. It's perishable. So, and you have to make sure that it's wanted, and so, and it's what do you do with it? So, you grew a beautiful batch of basil, but you don't have a buyer. So what are you going to do? You're going to fall back, and now you're in the dehydration business. You're going to dehydrate that. You're going to package it up, and you still have something where you can make money.
Wow.
And that is our most important thing, is to say, okay, it's not just when you win, but it's when things don't go right. What are you going to do?
There you
Yeah.
go.
And we certainly, we had our own, we ran into our own snafu where we expanded. And the number one reason a business fails in America is expansion. And we expanded after 10 years. You'd think we were ready.
Wow.
But our partner didn't come through at their end of the deal. And I'm going to say, as horrible as that was, and I mean, we teeter-tottered on the edge of despair. But I thought, who better than us? Because we teach this. And you know what? It's not all easy.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's, life just doesn't come up all roses, right? No pun
Right.
intended.
That's right.
But, it's what do you do when it fails? And so for us, we've lived through it. We turned that corner. We diversified. We're now growing, cucumbers, tomatoes, our basil still.
Oh,
But
good.
we
Yeah.
diversified out so that we never find ourselves in that position again. And so,
that's smart.
I can't tell you that I don't have a crystal ball that says it's always going to work, but I'm going to tell you that we'll always work.
Right.
And so we were the ones that didn't give up and said,
Yeah.
okay, there's going to be another day. The sun comes up again tomorrow.
That's
Yeah.
right. Can
Go
I,
ahead.
like, as a veteran, would you be able to use like Voc Rehab to join
Yes,
the
you can do Voc Rehab. You can use your GI Bill. We have grants available through the Farmer Veteran Coalition, as well as Stand for the Troops.
Okay.
And so there is many ways that you can come through. And I think right now for the next class, we had like 8 grants, which is pretty amazing that we very rarely have that. So it is
I'm
on a
gonna
first come,
sign
first
up.
serve. I know. And you know what? And we love it because we want the people that really are serious about it, you know.
So it is a 6 weeks course, right? Online?
You have 6 weeks online, or you can take the 12 weeks nights and weekends class for those who work during the day. If you're close enough here, you can do your farm labs at our farm.
Okay.
You could always come back
Okay.
after and say, I'd like to, you know, do some hours on the farm.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest that because just the countryside itself, but the hands-on is essential to me to get the feel of it, a feel for how it works. Plus, you get the feel for being on a farm and being
Yeah.
around that type of mentality. I think it's really, really a healthy transition.
So when does your next course start? Like the next class?
June 2nd. June 2nd
Okay.
is our next one. But you can go online and look at all the classes. It's at archisinstitute.com. So it looks like Arch is Institute. And it's because our last name is Archipley and Colin was known as Archie in the military. So that's where that came from.
There you go.
Yeah, I think growing crops is one of the it's one of the most noble professions there is. I mean, you were growing food and you're helping other people, even if you are making a living off of doing that, and you can help yourself in that way. So I think it's a wonderful profession for veterans to get in and have as a new way of life. And I'm actually personally taking Heroes to Hives beekeeper program.
Oh, wonderful.
I just think it's great because it gives people a whole new lease on life rather than keeping them stuck in the same patterns that they've been in continually for me, it was for 25 years. I mean, I was in the Army for 25 years and
Right.
it was just like when I got out, that was the last thing I wanted to do. So, and my first priority was to get out and to heal myself, and getting into the cycles of nature and the farming aspect of it where you're with the rhythms of nature rather than constantly jumping through hoops to please somebody else and please a boss that's always just asking more and more and more. You develop your own sense of worth and your own value. And I just think it's a great thing for veterans to look at, even if they don't decide farming's where they want to go. I think just expanding their horizons beyond the typical path from the military,
Correct.
from military to a 9-to-5 civilian job where
That's
you're
right.
working for somebody else at their mercy.
Yeah,
And
so it gives you a
well, you
sense
know-
of purpose again, you know? So
Absolutely. Listen, we're at a time in our life, all of us, where we have 0.5% of Americans who farm.
Wow.
0.5%. I mean, it's like, really? I mean, that's just crazy. And you know, in 1946, we had only 46% of farmers in America, and they called that a national security issue
Wow.
because food and
Wow.
water, right? What is the main cause of war? Scarcity.
Right.
And water. And you cut that off and you're in trouble. And we saw that with COVID. And so
That's true.
it's not only a noble profession, it is absolutely needed. And
Yeah.
there's never been a better time than now. And I've been saying this for 16 years. There's never been a better time than now to get into agriculture. Your community needs you. America needs you, right? You've
Yep.
served in the military. And I think that is amazing. And I'm so grateful. And now it's a way to serve our country again, is to become a producer of food.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Right.
if people don't think about this, but what if all the crops in the US all the farms somehow, something miraculously wiped out all the harvest it would have to be drastic. But if you didn't
Climate
grow your
change.
own, you'd starve to death. Yeah, climate
That's right.
change.
Climate change. We have flooding, we have fires. And that's where, hydro-organic has been a real controversy, right? And we have really blazed the trail on that. And Colin was part of the agro task force, the hydro-organic task force with the Secretary Vilsack. I've served on committees where I was the only one talking about hydro-organic and almost had to be walked to my car because people go crazy. And they're talking about the magic in the soil. And I'm going to say the magic is in our nutrients.
That's true.
And how do we stay away from chemicals?
Yeah.
Because right now there's areas where you can't turn your tap on and drink the water.
No
That's
lie.
a nightmare. But a
Yeah.
hydro-organic
That's where I live
grower
at.
can go in there. Pardon me?
Where I live at, you can't drink tap water.
Right. So a hydro-organic grower can go in there, and if you're piping water in there, they can grow crops organically for that community using 1/10 of the water and having 3 to 5 times the crop. So if you grow basil in the ground, I mean, we live in San Diego, the weather's beautiful, right? So we have 7 to 9 crop turns a year with basil in the ground.
Wow.
Hydro-organically, we have 17 to 20.
Whoa.
So not only does it pencil out, but we're using 1/10 of the water.
Wow.
See,
And
that's
so,
amazing.
and if you're growing tomatoes, it's 8 to 10 times the crop with 1/10
Oh
of the
my
water,
gosh.
Dang.
right? So, I mean, to me, it's like, why aren't we pushing this? And it's just really a select, I'm going to say it was like 7, because I sat on a board where they actually did everything they could to have me off of that board because they couldn't have the hydro, voice in there. And it was really just 7 really, really large farmers that were coming in and saying, no, you can't be organic. And it's like, that's all money. And it's like, these people are in their 70s and they're afraid of you in your 20s or 30s coming through and taking their business, and shame on them. Because
Mhm.
not only
Yeah.
is there room for everybody, nobody's going to hurt their business. They can keep growing in the dirt. Good for them.
Yeah.
But don't stop somebody that's growing on a rooftop or a parking lot, I mean, we have students that took over a parking lot in LA, and he was Army as
What?
well. And he took over a parking lot, and he had a 5-year lease, and he kicked butt. He had a Dutch bucket system. He put up his, fencing of plants to protect his crops, and he sold to local restaurants. And
Wow.
it turned out that the property owner wanted his property back after 5 years, which was really a shame. But, how cool was that? That this guy had a complete business and now he's tooled up. He can go anywhere he wants and do the same thing.
Wow.
There's people growing in containers, there's kids, it's beautiful when we embrace it and we say, hey, no, we're feeding our community.
Well,
So you can
Karen,
grow right in New York.
yeah,
Yes.
Right?
you could
And
grow
they
in a
do. They
one-room
do.
apartment, and then you
Yeah,
you
no,
could.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know-
A lot of people do that, but they're not growing food.
Yeah. Usually that's in the closet.
Yeah.
The thing that I think of is water is scarce. And, I watched this thing a few years back about the scientists of the world were congregating, talking about the issues that we're dealing with as a human race. And they said, under the earth, there's huge caverns that were full of water, and now they're tapped out, basically. And we are in a serious water shortage as far as the human race goes. So using only 1/10 of the water where it's just wasted in the soil, it also provides a way to grow crops in a more compact space. Soil farmers have to rotate their crops. So you're talking about giant plots of land that, it's used for crops this year. Next year it'll be bare while the crops are on this plot of land, and then they'll move it around to a different plot. So
You're hoping they're doing it organically.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's ruining the land otherwise.
But the land there's got so many contaminants from just the environment now that even if you are doing it organically, something outside of your farm might contaminate your crops and you not even know it. So I think the hydroponic is especially useful in protecting the crops from any outside contamination.
Right. Well, I'm going to say in the history of our world, any time that there was a constriction on water, you see examples of hydroponic coming up, and it was hydroorganics. We didn't have all the chemicals, right? I mean, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the floating Aztec gardens.
Yeah, the Aztec. I was thinking that.
Yeah, and I've been down to Machu Picchu. I'm going to tell you, I walked the most beautiful example of their hydroponic system that fed them, right? Because the water comes from the sky, and then they had all these channels where the water comes down and it feeds all the plants. And the amazing thing is that they were not dependent on soaking those crops, right? It was nutrient film of water that followed these channels. And I just think, to not be open to that would be a very sad thing. And I think that the magic is in the nutrients and what you're feeding those plants and keeping chemicals away from them, because those chemicals wash down and it's just going to poison someone else.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'm growing in the ground. I grow like plants in the ground, and I mean, this is enlightening for me because now I want to go hydroponic because I was getting my kids involved too, because my kids like doing the garden and stuff like that. We grow, but yeah, I would definitely want to show them that it'd be better for them in the future than to show them the right way to do things.
We made small hydroorganic systems when we first started our class because we were trying to diversify and bring in income, and because we didn't charge for our class for the first 3 years, by the way, because Colin didn't want to charge somebody that had already served their country, and he didn't want to charge them. No, okay, stop, because I'm not going bankrupt for this. And so what we ended up doing is going into the college system, and now everybody has to pay for class, right? But I'm going to say that, we made these small systems, 6 bucket systems that we still use in our labs. And we were selling them for $750.
Wow.
And today you can build those very, very inexpensively. And I'm thrilled about that. I would love to see people actually rolling those out, somebody make a business plan on that and being able to hook people up for their patio. Because it wouldn't matter if you're in an HOA or a house or wherever, because it was 6 buckets that produces a lot of food.
See,
I only had one person try to return it to me. And I said, oh, please tell us what's wrong. We're a really small business so that we can correct it. And they said, too much food. And I'm like, okay, you cannot return it for that.
Well, there you go.
Give it to your neighbors.
Or sell it and make your money back for buying
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plant something different. But we also had a student that took out all the shrubs in his backyard of his house because he was tired of seeing his kids sit on the couch. And he turned it into the high beds using cocoa coir and rolled out a hydroponic system and started a little CSA for his neighborhood. He was still active duty, Navy guy.
Wow.
And so then whatever the neighbors didn't get in their box, he would sell to the local market at his corner. And he said it just worked out perfect. And so it can be the smallest footprint or the biggest footprint. And we encourage everything in between.
I mentioned to Mike on our last interview, I think what we need to start doing as far as schools go is going back to teaching programs in school. But I think if they taught kids how to create a small hydroponic system, maybe just a 3 foot by 3 foot tall NFT channel using PVC pipes and a reservoir with a little pump.
Well, I'm not going to say PVC.
Because it
leaches into the water. And you know what? We can thank the marijuana industry. You can go buy these channels that don't leak.
They got today. Specifically for that, but it can be used for other stuff. But
absolutely.
You could do that, or Beto bucket. You could teach them that, or Beto buckets.
Yes,
just a really inexpensive, and give them the actual components to make it as part of the class. Teach them how to make it, teach them how to grow, So they go back home and grow the food for their family,
Exactly.
and they're growing
1000%
healthy
on board.
food. Plus,
Yes.
the family's saving money. And now you've got, especially, I think that if kids could learn that, especially kids that are impoverished, their parents have a hard time feeding the family already.
Right.
If the kid
right.
comes home and says, hey, let me try this, let me just grow the
That
food
would be
for the garden.
amazing.
I know. I think,
Well, and the
I grew
nutrients.
up in poverty. I grew up struggling to eat. So that would be. I would have loved to learn that while I was growing up.
Yeah. I highly, highly recommend it. I love that. I would encourage you to encourage other people to do it. I know I talk about it in our class, and I used to teach on base for the wives. I occasionally give a class. Here's a 6-bucket system. You can use 3 buckets for making money: thyme, lemongrass, rosemary, and make soup rings, right? And then on the other 3 buckets, do your lettuce, your tomatoes, your bell peppers, things that are too expensive to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and it's 15 gallons of water every 2 weeks.
yeah, wow.
Try doing that in a garden.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah. Plus, in a garden
Yeah,
too, in the outdoors, you are so subject to the elements. I mean, like,
Yes, you are.
I noticed with my flower, we have a lot of flowers around our house now. Instead, I don't really grow much other than a raised bed, garden for our house. But during the summer, it's either they're parched or they're drenched.
Get your cocoa coir, do your raised bed, and just do it with what drains that water off, because no plant is going to, the cocoa coir, or using a medium like that for hydroponic, you can have a raised bed. Take dirt out of the equation, put your nutrients in, and those elements keep the plant from drowning.
Yeah,
so it pulls it away.
It's
and
got
they can use what they
airspace.
want. Yeah.
Yeah, with soil though,
Man, I
it
need to
gets
learn this
compacted.
stuff.
It get yeah, yeah, and with soil though, once all the water has taken up all the airspace, it drowns the plant. So yeah, the cocoa is open and airy enough to get oxygen to the plant. That's a good advice.
And I'm not putting down
what's it called
soil
again? I'm
because,
sorry.
soil is cocoa coir.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it looks like cocoa and then air is the way it's spelled.
COIR, choir.
Yeah.
COIR. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look into all this stuff. My mind is going.
It just don't have any nutrients. You have to add the nutrients to it if you're using a hydroponic system.
And the nutrients, the same thing as if you're growing in the soil, though. You have to add the nutrients. We buy the same stuff. It's just our stuff goes a lot further.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, if I wanted to buy that 6-bucket system from you, can we still purchase it? Like, can somebody still purchase it?
No, but I can send you a schematic.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're easy.
Do it yourself.
They're really easy to build.
I'm all about doing it yourself, because I just think, well, what is it? It's give a man a fish and he eats for a day. But teach a man a fish and he eats for life. Maybe you make your system and now you made one for your cousin and you made one for your neighbor, and suddenly you have a small business of it. I'm thrilled with that. Because now we're feeding people. We're feeding people.
Exactly, because we can show it, just like you said. If I learn, I'll show other people. That's how it's supposed to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we're trying to do with the podcast, trying to show people how to live better.
I love that. It's an honor to be with you today.
Even if you can't get kids involved in farming and gardening and stuff like that, I think it's a perfect transition for veterans. And I saw a picture the other day about the veterans in World War I. It's got this black and white photo of all of them in this garden, how they were dealing with the PTSD back in World War I.
That's right. Now, I'm going to say, when I had to prove out for this course, it was after World War II that they created the BLM land, is Bureau of Land Management, and that was created for our veterans. And you only pay the property taxes, and the caveat is that you have to use it for agriculture.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
because
that.
they knew growing food actually was healing for the war weary, which is PTS. And I don't say PTSD only because I don't think it's a disorder. I think post-traumatic stress is a normal reaction to something horrific in your life.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's not a disorder. It's a normal thing. And yes, do we need to do things to heal it? Yes. But growing food is certainly one of them.
I found that growing does keep my mind steady.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, it gives a purpose, you know. I like to go outside
right.
every day, and I'm gonna go out there and feed the plants and stuff like that. And I got chickens and stuff like that. So
Nice.
I can wake up in the
Awesome.
morning, I know what I have to do, you know. So instead of just drowning myself in sorrow like I used to do before everything. So.
Yeah, it's hard to drink all night when you got to get up in the morning and check on the
Exactly.
or the livestock or something, you know. So I think it's a good way to get people out of those ruts, you know, and get them moving forward with life.
Someone asked Colin recently, they said, "So why don't you drink?" And he said, "I just don't have time."
Yeah. When do I have time to sit around and get drunk?
Yeah.
That's right. He doesn't have time.
That's right.
That's so true. I have no time to sit around and get drunk anymore.
No.
One day I woke up and said, you know, I gotta stop this and change my life. And that's when everything started falling into place for me, you know.
That's awesome.
Growing some vegetables and I actually raised chickens from the eggs. I got some in the incubator right here. So
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, you used to do goats too, right? I mean, you don't do the goats anymore, right?
Yeah, because I don't have too much land for the goats, so I gave my goats to my cousin. They got like a whole bunch of land. But yeah, I had 2 goats and they had a baby. I helped the mother give birth and everything for the goats.
Wow.
And I'm a city boy. I don't know nothing about none of the farming stuff, so everything is just like.
Yeah, he's from New York City.
Yeah.
Wow. But that's nature, right? I mean, we fall into it because, you know, basically we have, you know, millions of years of ancestors. I mean, how does the world work? You know, if you want to go anywhere in the world and find the food, follow the river.
That's right.
Because that's where the food grows.
That is right.
Right? And, you know, survival, we all have that instinct. And I love that. I love it that you found yours.
Yes, ma'am.
There's so much opportunity.
Yeah.
And if you're in the right place, then God bless you. That's awesome.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I mean, everything happens for a reason, and that's why you're on the show with us today.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, thanks, Karen, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure talking with you today.
Just let everybody know how to find you, the website, your email, number, any way that anybody could contact you.
It's www.archisinstitute.com.
Nice.
And you can always reach Laura, is our national manager for enrollment, and her email is Laura and it's LAURA at archisinstitute.com.
Okay.
Excellent.
And we'd love to have anyone in our class. We welcome everyone. There's never been a better time to become a farmer in America, but even to just be involved with ag or to be entrepreneurial. I mean, that's where it's at.
Right.
You know, you're driving your own boat, and we really work hard to make sure that you can navigate it.
Well, it was definitely a pleasure having you on the show, Karen. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored. And so continue on to be successful and keep growing.
I think my favorite part was when she started explaining about the hydroponics, man.
Yeah.
I definitely want to make a hydro system, man. That's
got me
enlightened right now.
Yeah,
How about
dude.
you?
Well, just talking to her brought back the memories of being on Archie's, you know, being back. Like I said, I loved the countryside that it was in. Man, you're sitting up on this hillside, and they've got the greenhouse there, and they've got the barn up on the hill, and the barn is where they held all the classes in. when
Okay.
I went through. But if you, in between the greenhouse and the barn, if you look out, it's just these giant rolling hills, and it's just gorgeous country, man. You can see like way out, and the farm next to them is like a grape orchard. So
Okay.
they've got the orchard set up, and it's just rolling hills and beautiful. She is right. It's like it's a lot like Italy. You know, I've never been to Italy, but I feel like I have. I
Right?
feel like I have. But you know, they teach you a lot of things there, and things like the hydroponic stuff. You learn all about that. You learn about indoor and outdoor. You learn about setting up a farm. You learn about the business end. And I just think, you know, the whole thing, the whole concept, regardless if you farm or not, it gives you a jump start. I think farming skills are crucial, even if you're not starting a farm. You know, I believe that a small garden, if you grow a small garden, I think, you know, with the price of food nowadays, and just like what I said in the interview, you know, what happens if all these farms' crops gets wiped out?
That's
And
right.
can you imagine how expensive food would be
Probably chaotic, bro.
if we only had 1/3 of the food that we have now? The food would be, the only people that would be able to eat would be millionaires to billionaires.
That ain't a lie.
Millionaires would have to go on a diet, and billionaires would just
That's
eat
true.
normal.
You ain't
Everybody
lying.
else would just starve to death, man.
Starving to death unless you grow your own stuff, man.
And you know, the worst time to get started is when it's already happened, because
Hold on.
it's going to take you 3 months before you even have any kind of, maybe 2 weeks, depending on what you're growing. But if you're growing tomatoes, it's going to take you 3 months before you get anything out of it.
That's true. You ain't
So
lying, brother.
if the world's food industry shuts down tomorrow, you're going to have to eat fucking worms until your crops come in.
That's right.
And eating the worms is going to be taken away from your crops.
You know it. True.
Unless you go hydroponic.
I definitely want to try that hydroponic stuff though, man. Because I don't know. It just struck me like something interesting to do, man. I really want. I want to learn it now.
Well, and not only that, they teach you about aquaponics. They don't teach you aquaponics there. They teach you a generalization of aquaponics in the course.
Right.
But aquaponics sounds interesting too, because you've got fish that you can have too.
Yeah, right.
You just got to keep that balance of plant and fish, because your fish live in the water that feeds the plants, and your fish are what's fertilizing the plants.
That's crazy, man.
And your fish are eating off of the plant. It's the life cycle right there.
Mm-hmm.
Hydroponic is fun, and it's not hard. I mean, it's just a reservoir, a pump, and some channels. You know, you have to have tubing for the water to go through, but
You don't have to take up a lot of space with that either, right?
no, and that's what I was thinking of. You know, when she said, "I wish someone would do a business to build these little things," and I was like thinking, I have already thought about doing that in my head
Right.
before, creating like the systems that I was talking about, kids building in classes.
Man, you gotta shoot me information on that, man, because I'm a build one, man. I definitely want to.
Yeah, there's
when
all
I put
kinds
my
of
mind,
good
when I say
stuff.
I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. So
I'll send you what I built in Washington State. And I built 3 big A-frames, and I was gonna run NFT channels on that, the nutrient film technique.
uh-huh.
And I built them. I built these entire things, and they were A-frames, and they had tons of planters. I estimated what I would make off of them every month, and it was like $8,000 a month.
Bro.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on.
I know, but we moved before I got a chance to put that in operation. So
Gotcha.
I ended up just tearing them down. So I spent all that money on the lumber. It was, of course, outdoor pressure treated lumber, and I've spent all that time building the frames and everything. But when I calculated it out, it would have been $8,000 a month. It was how much I would be making. It only cost me $1,000 in parts.
Material. That's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah. But it did cost
It's a
me a lot of
no-brainer.
labor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And you could
but
put
it
those-
also with the labor, it keeps you moving, bro. It keeps your mind focused on something instead of any negative. You know what I mean?
well,
So
think about this. When I was meeting with the site, and he suggested that I play video games to take my mind off of, things. And I'm like, okay, well, that's okay, but it's not constructive. It's not productive. There's no purpose to it other than
Right.
just to waste time and have fun, which is fine.
Right.
But I needed more than that. And I think a lot of veterans do. And I think they're just told, oh, just distract yourself with just petty nonsense. So your
That's
life
true.
amounts to shit. Basically, you look at your life and you're like, well, what does my life amount to? All I do is play fucking video games.
Video games, yeah. I mean, even when you win, what they say, drink water, drive on. Shit. Right? Drink water, drive on.
Yeah.
You broke your leg, drink water, drive on. Here's some Tylenol, ibuprofen, go.
Yeah. Well, you get out and you get into the farming stuff. That's a hobby. It's like building little scale models, It's something that takes your time. It's something that you put your mind into, you put your focus into, and it takes your mind from all that chaos into something that you can see a productive outcome from.
Exactly.
And growing not only your own food, but food for the community or food to sell to make profit. Dude, that's a purpose.
That is a purpose.
Not that making money is a good purpose, which it can be. But if you're looking at it from a farming perspective, people need food. It's not like they just, I desire food. So you're not making something that people just desire.
That's
You're
true.
making something that people have to live.
That's
so your
true.
purpose is the highest purpose aside from finding yourself. And you do that within the process of the farming.
Yeah, that's dope, man. You ain't lying about that, bro.
You get out and you end up going into a system that's just using you for their benefit. And you're getting, I don't want to say getting fucked in the ass, but if I did say, but you're getting fucked in the ass and not even getting any lube, it's just like
still working for the other person, man. You ain't working for yourself. Just like you were saying about purpose, you know what I'm saying? Like me, my purpose after, joining and stuff and then having a family was being in the military for my family. You know what I'm saying? So getting out and finding purpose into growing something for my family, that gives me a lot more purpose. It's just like what I was doing in the military, you know what I mean? But I'm doing it for me and my family.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's what struck me when I started doing this eggs and stuff like that with the chickens and planting my own vegetables and fruit trees and stuff like that. So, I want to get it for my family. I want them to be able to eat off their own land. You know what I'm saying? Instead of having to go buy all that chemical stuff in the grocery stores, and it's way more expensive.
Right, because if you grew it, you know what the hell's in it.
Exactly.
That's what I argue with medicine, like cannabis. If you grow your own cannabis, you know exactly what the hell's in it. It's natural if you make it natural. Right. You go take a pill, you might know what the fuck is in it, but it's manufactured in a chemical lab. It's manufactured in a lab, and it's full of chemicals, and it's something, I look at all the medicine that we have, the traditional medicine that's prescribed to us. Look at how many pills veterans are taking. The VA their answer for everything is just toss some pills. And when I get, when I'm talking to my doctor and I tell her my issue, the first thing I tell her is, I don't want you to prescribe me anything for it. I don't want to keep I don't want to solve anything because you're not solving anything. You're actually creating more problems.
Yeah.
Well, and you're creating, you think about this. You've got a normal chemistry in your body. Your body's equilibrium. Then you add in a pill. Okay, that pill has side effects. So you take this pill. This pill has side effects. So you take this other pill and this pill. So you've got this chemical toxic mix, the slurry inside of your body, because you're countering each one of these drugs with a different drug, and you're altering the chemicals in your body. Cannabis don't do that. It's actually necessary for your body to have that because it has what's called an endocannabinoid system. I mean, we can get into that in another episode, which we're going to have to do an episode on cannabis, just on cannabis, period, because I mean, we could do just a whole podcast on it, but I mean, I learned, like I said, when I left Archie's, they gave me the foundation of farming, and my granddad was a farmer, my mother always had a garden growing up. I was always around it, but I've never considered it for myself. God, I hated getting the garden when I was a kid. Because it was always like, I need you to dig some holes for the poles for the peas. So you'd have to be out there with that hole digger fucking digging holes.
Oh yeah. How people get sick. You know what a disease is? It's something that's diseased. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The body's that's your body is at disease. You know what I mean? So people die from high blood pressure, from diabetes, from this and that, all because of what you put in your body.
Yeah.
Inflammation from what you put in your body. You know what I'm saying? So it sucks that they feed us all this stuff and they chemically put shit in our food, and then we have to like get a license and pay so we can grow our own vegetables type stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's whack.
Yeah, that's just because they're crooked motherfuckers, man. Alabama's one of the only states that taxes food. It taxes groceries.
Sweat.
So, if they eliminated any tax on groceries, say your essentials, your shelter, your food, your water. If they eliminate taxes on that, because all that shit, they shouldn't make a profit off of survival.
That's true. With that said, it's time to wrap it up. So please leave your comments on Spotify in the Q&A section down below.
Don't forget to share our podcast to help us reach as many veterans and people who are in need.
You guys can check out this episode and others on our YouTube channel at Beyond 22 Podcast.
Soldier died by suicide. National Subcommittee held a hearing today on military suicide prevention. Too many of our nation's heroes are taking their own lives, and we, as a nation, need to bring that to an end.